Basketball has been around for a long time. Since its establishment in 1946, the NBA has seen plenty of memorable seasons, 75 of them to be exact, each of them with their own narratives, highlights, and legacy. But every once in a while, one season stands above the rest, leaving a lasting impression for a lifetime.
Now there's a steal by Bird, underneath the DJ Lynch.
Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead!
James catches, puts up a three, won't go, rebound Bosh, back out to Allen, his three-pointer, bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining!
But even out of all of those seasons, there's still one more, with a never-ending highlight reel.
Let's it go! Aaron Gordon, Oladipo, back to there's the big time dunk. They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Will Kobe give them one last gamer? Bryant on the move with the jumper. He got it! 58 points!
And an impact that we still see today. We said goodbye to some legends, and we saw the game change in front of our very own eyes. We saw a king take the throne, and the rise of an army to stop him. The 2016 NBA season stands alone as the most impactful and memorable season of all time. This is the story of the NBA at its peak. This is the story of the 2016 NBA season.
Thompson gets past Jefferson, out to Green, tries another three, puts it in. Draymond Green lighting it up. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
To fully grasp the magnitude that was 2016, let's flash back to the season that set it all up. Let's go all the way back to 2015. That year, we saw the rise of the Warriors. Leading his team to 67 wins was Steph Curry and his splash brother, Klay Thompson, who had both recently made the jump into household names. Steph Curry had just won his first MVP and had broken the record for the most amount of three-pointers in a season, hitting 286, a record that he had just set 2 years prior. But the Warriors were not the only team making a run for the finals. Dwight Howard had paired with James Harden in Houston, and the point guard Chris Paul had led the Lob City Clippers towards a 55-win season, hoping to break the curse of the LA Clippers. Out east, the Atlanta Hawks had surprised everyone with a 60-win record, led by 4 All-Stars in Kyle Korver, Paul Millsap, Al Horford, and Jeff Teague. Finally, LeBron James had returned back to Cleveland, destined to fulfill a promise of winning a championship for the land. And that season, he had a chance to fulfill that promise. The 2015 NBA Finals were set to be the Golden State Warriors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Golden State appeared to be the favorites for the series as they had only lost 3 games in the playoffs so far. Meanwhile, Cleveland, who had also had an impressive playoff run, only lost 2 games but were undermanned as Kevin Love is out after Kelly Olynyk dislocated his shoulder in Game 4 of the first round. At the end of Game 1, the Cavaliers lose despite a 44-point legendary performance from LeBron James. To make the loss worse, with 2 minutes left in overtime of Game 1, Kyrie Irving collides with Klay Thompson, fracturing his kneecap. He would be out for the rest of the series, and the Cavaliers are now missing 2 of their 3 best players. Despite this, the Cavs would still take a 2-1 lead thanks to big performances by LeBron James. But those would be all the Cavaliers would go on to win, as Golden State would then take the next 3 games. LeBron would go on to have one of the greatest final series of all time, averaging 36 points, 13 rebounds, and 9 assists. However, it would be his foe on the other end, Andre Iguodala, who slowed down LeBron in key moments, holding him to a sub-40 shooting percentage. Despite averaging 26 points and 6 assists, Steph Curry, who shot relatively below average for the series, would lose the Finals MVP award to Andre Iguodala. And just like that, the Warriors were champions, and LeBron had another final stain on his career. We enter into the offseason, officially starting the 2015 to 2016 NBA season. We kick things off with the draft. However, the number 1 pick was already decided a while ago, with Karl Anthony Towns landing up on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Cat was touted as the next great big in Minnesota, seen as an ultra-competitive, hard worker with an already polished offensive game. Cat could shoot the ball at the level of a guard and has shown great ability in scoring from the post. His large frame also made him an excellent night in and night out rebounder. The number 2 pick went to Ohio State guard D'Angelo Russell. Russell came in with an already polished shooting game, quick release, and elite handles. Russell was expected to be the next great Laker. 3 years ago, Kobe Bryant had torn his Achilles while having a Superman season for the Lakers. And while his heart and mind were still in the game, his body was not. 2014 and 15 were unusual losing seasons for the Lakers, only winning 27 and 21 games respectively. Russell is prospected as the next great Laker, the one that Kobe can hand the torch off to. The 3rd pick had gone to the tanking 76ers. Since the 2013 season, the 76ers has been shamelessly tanking, hoping their bad record will wield high draft picks, resulting in future superstars. In 2013, the team selected Michael Carter-Williams, who would go on to win Rookie of the Year. In 2014, the team selected injury-prone big man Joel Embiid. This year, they selected Jahlil Okafor, another highly touted big man who was said to have a postgame rivaling that of the Dream himself. The 4th pick was a controversial one, with the New York Knicks picking Latvian big man Kristaps Porzingis. Of course, Kristaps was infamously booed on draft night, but regardless, his unicorn-like skill set being a 7'3" big man with a guard-like outside game intrigued many within the organization. Kristaps was going to form the next great New York duo with Carmelo Anthony. Our last major draft pick goes all the way down to the 13th spot, where we see the 4th player from Kentucky drafted. That would be guard Devin Booker. Booker was mostly a spot-up shooter in his time at Kentucky, but he had also shown a brief volume scoring potential with the makings of a solid all-around game. While there are also some less notable players, but still solid talent who ended up in this draft class, such as Miles Turner, Cameron Payne, Kelly Oubre Jr., Terry Rozier, and Montrezl Harrell. But the draft is for the future. Free agency is for the now. The Cavaliers and Warriors managed to retain nearly their full rosters, but that doesn't mean the teams below them weren't trying to strike for them. One of the biggest moves of the offseason included LaMarcus Aldridge headed down from Portland to San Antonio. Aldridge had risen up as one of the best big men in the league, averaging 23 points and 10 rebounds the year prior. Along with that, much of the Spurs' old championship core had remained, that including Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Patty Mills, Boris Diaw, Tim Duncan, and a young prospect named Kawhi Leonard. The Spurs had the perfect combination of veterans, young talent, stars in their prime, all coached by the greatest coach of all time. This would put the core in one more position to compete. Another big offseason move, or nearly big offseason move, was for DeAndre Jordan. Jordan, after coming off of a career year, was looking to get his bag and find a team that would give him a larger role in the offense. He had set up a verbal agreement with the Dallas Mavericks for a 4-year, $80 million contract. It wasn't until a group of Clippers teammates and Doc Rivers went over to his house in Houston, convincing him to back out of the deal and work on their unfinished business in LA. Especially since just the year prior, the Clippers had become the first team since the 2006 Lakers to lose a 3-1 lead. Another headline signing was the Bucks signing Greg Monroe. Monroe was supposed to be a leader for this team, joining a team full of young prospects including Chris Middleton, Jabari Parker, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. This was meant to be a more optimistic signing for the team, especially since the Bucks had shocked the league by winning 41 games and making the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. While these may seem like small moves, it is clear that these draft choices and free agency signings would go on to shape the next few years of basketball. But little did we know, everything about the sport was about to change. On October 27, 2015, the NBA hosted 3 games to kick off the 2015-16 season. The duo of Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose defeated the defending Eastern Conference champions, and the Detroit Pistons, in a forgettable matchup, defeated the Atlanta Hawks. But it was the game at 10:30 in Oracle Arena, Oakland, California, the one that started it all. Anthony Davis was fresh off of a new contract and expected to lead the Pelicans into the future. But on the other hand, it was Steph Curry who was having a night to remember. Curry finished the night with 40 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists while making 5 3-pointers in a dominant Warriors win. But it wasn't just that. 4 days later, Steph Curry would again harass the Pelicans with a 53-point performance including 8 made 3-pointers. The next game, the Warriors would go on to defeat the Memphis Grizzlies, a team that last year had won 55 games, 119-65. Game after game, Curry would hit these near impossible three-pointers, shooting shots that many of us thought were unimaginable in a game. He was consistently putting up 30 or even 40-point nights. For the whole beginning of the start of the season, the Warriors would not lose. They would go on to win their first 24 games of the season, a 27-game win streak including last year's finals run. It wasn't until December 12th, over a quarter of the way through the season, behind a 29-point game from Greg Monroe, would the Warriors' record finally end. For the Warriors' undefeated November, Curry would average 30 points on an absurd 50-40-90 while making 5 three-pointers per game. While many of them did not even expect him to repeat as MVP, he had already made himself a frontrunner early in the year. But Golden State was not the only team having an impressive season. The Spurs have started off strong, winning 20 of their first 25 games. Meanwhile in the East, LeBron James and the Cavaliers sat at a mere 15-7, which would be good for 4th in the Western Conference. The 76ers had been tanking, sitting at a pitiful 1-23, and the Lakers continued to flop, going 3-21. Once we got to around the midpoint of the season, there were some doubts casted upon LeBron James. Let's flash forward to the All-Star game. The Spurs and Warriors continued their amazing seasons. Golden State had only lost 4 games at that point, but the Spurs empire was just beneath them, going 45-8 at the All-Star break. The young core of the Oklahoma City Thunder were sitting at 40-14. Majority of people looked at the Thunder to be the team to defeat the Warriors. While the Spurs put up a better record, the Thunder had the absolute star power that could compete with and outscore the Warriors. That star power would be put on display only a few weeks later. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. By this point in the season, the league was stacked, the Warriors were on a historic pace, the Spurs looked like they were the best that they've ever been, and the young Thunder were going to be a challenge to Golden State. So what about LeBron? Today we see LeBron James as an ageless figure. We look at his time in Cleveland and see that he is a clear extension of his physical prime. But what LeBron James was doing in 2016 was unprecedented. You see, LeBron James was coming off of his 5th straight finals appearance. The only players that have more consecutive finals were Bill Russell and his teammates in the 1960s. It is beyond unheard of for a player to continue making the finals, especially after switching teams like this. On top of this, he was doing this all at the age of 31 years old. Once again, 31 sounds a bit young for LeBron, but for majority of NBA history, many players who had reached this early 30s mark in their career has started to see some sort of loss in their game, sometimes reverting their playstyles to be more perimeter oriented rather than attacking the rim so often. And for someone like LeBron, who with his young starting age and a long playoff history had practically played more games than anyone else at that age, it seemed that it was only a matter of time before LeBron James would start to show his decline. It is not too hard to find quote-unquote proof of LeBron James declining, and well, who's to say that they weren't wrong at the time? At the All-Star break, things were starting to get stressful. Let's calm down, relax, and see what some of the league's best has to offer during All-Star weekend. The three-point contest was headed by 2 players, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers. This was to determine who was really the best three-point shooter between the two. And well, that was a legitimate question. Steph Curry may have been the one setting all the headlines, but you can't talk about Steph Curry without talking about his right-hand man, Klay Thompson. Thompson, who around the point of the All-Star break was averaging over 3 three-pointers per game, shooting 42%, meanwhile playing all NBA level defense, was the perfect partner in crime to go with Curry. Imagine NBA defenses having to guard both of these all-generational shooters running around screens. Klay would nail a 3 in your face and then come back down and lock you down on defense. Last year, it was Steph Curry who put up 27 points in the final round to take home the crown. This year, he would once again be matched up against his teammate in the contest. In the championship round, Devin Booker put up 16 points, and Steph then followed him by putting up 21. And it looked like 21 was going to be enough for Curry to repeat as champion. By the 4th rack, Klay was only at 13 points, 10 less than Curry. But then, Klay caught fire, hitting his last 8 shots including all the money balls, passing Steph on his second to last make. Klay Thompson ends up putting up a score of 27 and winning the 3-point contest. Yet, watching these two teammates compete against each other wasn't even the highlight of All-Star Weekend. In what is now a legendary dunk contest, where some even call it the greatest of all time, Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon went head-to-head, throwing down some of the most spectacular dunks on the grand stage. Just about every dunk thrown down between these two was a perfect 50. Yet, Zach LaVine narrowly won thanks to a free throw line dunk between the legs. And somehow that still wasn't even the most impressive dunk of the night. Just take a look at what these guys did that night.
Wait, let me see it. Jeez. Okay.
He's got tricks up his sleeve.
He's got bunny. I didn't know he had bunnies like that.
I don't know.
That was terrific.
I don't know.
Man, all these. Wait,
Hey, man.
If you don't know what you did, what you just saw, when you see it in slow motion.
Hey, man.
Between the legs. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. Okay. We'll take that. Take that. He does this, though. He does this. That's a 10.
Hey, you got it.
That's a 50. That's a 50. That is a 50.
That's a 50.
That's what you do and how you do it. Yeah.
Mascot.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
In the All-Star game, Russell Westbrook put up 31 points to take home the MVP, but most people remember the game for Steph Curry hitting a half-court shot as time expired, as well as the final All-Star game for Kobe Bryant. Bryant had built up quite the All-Star reputation. In his illustrious career, he was selected 18 times, a record for the time of his retirement, including winning the MVP 4 times. His name will forever be tied with the game as the trophy is named in his very honor. While the time of the All-Star break gives us a moment to pause and relax, the time of the season moves on. While the All-Star break gave us many memorable moments for the season, arguably the most memorable moment is going to happen just a few weeks later.